The ink froze between his fingers. Snow hissed through smashed joists. He knew the letter would never leave the cellar. What did German officers confess in their final lines? Loyalty, doubt, love, or guilt, when the city swallowing them would not set them free? Heinrich Moldenhauer pressed the page flat with a rifle stock. Above him, boots stumbled past the hatch. He wrote like a man timing his heartbeat to falling shells, each word a wager against oblivion, each line a farewell folded inside a war's last breath. The city had swallowed 500,000 men, and the letter bag was a dead weight, with no road out. The last plane circled smoke and vanished into Soviet fire. So officers wrote for an audience that might never exist. Wives, sons, commanders, or the silence itself. Some wrote bold, invoking the oath to Hitler. Others wrote softly, whispering apologies to children they'd never see. Many wrote both, duty woven with dread, because the winter was tearing the seams between what they fought for and what remained of them. What if I told you final letters from Stalingrad carried two wars, one on maps, the other inside hearts? Between orders and prayers, signatures trembled. The lines that crossed the last winter spoke of bravery and of breaking. This story has been hidden in gray files and scorched cellars. Tonight, we unseal them. Not to absolve, not to condemn, to hear the last living words before the snow closed over them. A testimony written in the hour of no return. December turned to January, and the Sixth Army was a circle tightening on itself. Streets became trenches, apartments, fortresses. Each address on a letter was a map to a life far away. Leipzig, Cologne, Munich, cities that still had roofs and birthdays. The Feldpost system had carried millions of words eastward. Now it withered. Censors thinned the pages, cutting fear from sentences. But the pocket fronts were collapsing faster than red pencils. Meaning slipped through anyway, between commas, under breath. Officers were supposed to set the tone, steadiness in official letters, certainty in orders. Yet privately, they confessed the unthinkable. No more horses, cartridges counted like beads, the sky a predator. They asked wives to hide this page from the children. My dearest, many began, the safest way to touch another world. Some enclosed pressed leaves, a lock of hair, tiny proofs the world still held gentle textures. In return, winter returned only smoke and a postal bag with no road west. Outside, the Volga groaned under ice floes. Inside, men coughed pink into rags. Officers wrote of typhus, frostbitten feet, tea boiled from snow, and bread like stone. They avoided words for dead friends, as if omission might conjure them walking in. A lieutenant wrote to his father, a veteran of 1918. It is not like your war. The cold is a general, and it has our measure. The sentence dodged the censor by sounding brave, but between its clauses lay a quiet plea for permission to break. Relief was promised. Hoth's panzers pushing from the steppe. Officers wrote it into their paragraphs like a charm. Soon we will see open fields again. Days later, the charm broke on the Mishkova River. The letters stopped mentioning rescue. A captain folded 3 letters together, one to his wife, one to his company, one to himself. The last he sealed with bread paste and tucked in a boot lining. He wrote, "If no one reads this, at least I told the truth somewhere." Orders and letters sat side by side. One demanded hold. The other begged, "Come back to us." Officers wrote both with the same hand. Fingers chafed to blood. The contradiction bent the pen. It bent them. The oath weighed heavy. "I swore," wrote one, "and I cannot unswear. But I can still decide how to treat my men." Food shared, boots traded, orders softened. Duty shrank to the circle you could stand inside without losing your soul. They wrote wills as if sketching maps. Ring to Anna, watch to Franz, books to the boy when he can read. My apologies to those I failed. The city funneled men toward a moment where property weighed less than a sentence finished before a shell arrived. When Potomnik Airfield fell, letters lost their only sky. A major wrote, "Our words are prisoners with us now." So they tried courier miracles, messages sewn into coats, entrusted to the wounded, hidden inside grenade tins and bread crusts. Some wrote to the enemy, "We fight men, not monsters," a sentry scrawled on a leaflet he'd found. He addressed it to comrade across the street and asked if he lived to see dawn. The paper vanished in a gust between machine gun bursts. For a handful, belief hardened. Their letters bristled. "We will hold to the last cartridge. The world watches." Faith, like iron, can also sink. By January, the cartridges were counted on open palms. The world watched through blizzards and static. Gumrock fell. The last Luftwaffe medics burned paperwork and whispered farewells into the wind. Officers stared at their bundles of letters and did not feed them to the fire. Burning would erase the last proof they had tried to be human in a machine. There were letters of contrition. "We have done things I must answer for," one captain wrote, without details, as if the paper could not carry them. He asked his brother to plant trees, as if saplings could argue with ghosts and wind. Others clung to fragments of a promised world. "Hold the house together. Teach Lenny piano," an officer wrote. He described keys black and white like frozen Volga slabs. He needed to imagine a melody stepping from one bank to the other. One lieutenant addressed a comrade already dead. He wrote the name, then struck through it, then wrote it again. He described a night attack as if the recipient could correct his memory. "Did we run first, or did the light go out?" Mailbags taken by the Red Army were opened in warm rooms, far from the shriek of steel. The handwriting trembled, even in still air. Translators read what the city had distilled. Tenderness without guarantees. Orders written as prayers. Silence between lines. Some officers told their men to write too. "If I cannot send mine, you must send yours," a company commander said. He parceled out 2 envelopes like rations. Leadership shrank to sheltering a sentence, a memory, a name that might outlive the thaw. As rations failed, letters thickened with recipes and memories of kitchens. Potato soup, remembered like a hymn. They listed ingredients as if writing them down might feed a platoon. Hunger gave grammar a new command. Name what you cannot have. They wrote about horses, once pride, now meat. "Forgive us," one captain wrote to a daughter who loved animals. He described stroking the mane before the knife. He wanted the child to know he remembered gentleness at the edge of necessity. Some wrote of obedience as burden. "Command has become waiting for the next man to die," a major confessed. He counted survival in minutes he could not spend. When he ran out of words, he folded the page and wrote a name on the outside. His. Walter von Seidlitz-Kurzbach urged breaking out. His letters carried calculation and risk. "Save the men, not the map," he wrote associates. Politics sealed the envelope against him. Arguments turned into snow. The circle held, then tightened. General Paulus sent clipped, formal signals, the prose of a man trapped by grammar and orders. Privately, officers speculated. Would he defy a voice in a far forest? Or would he wait as the frost wrote the answer in white on windowsills? An Oberleutnant's hand shook less when writing to his mother than when drafting attack orders. "I was a good son once," he wrote. The sentence collapsed in the snow space between youth and uniform. He ended without a signature, as if returning to boyhood. In nights of bombardment, officers read each other's pages aloud. No addresses, no ranks. Anonymous human sentences. For a moment, the war dissolved into syllables shared, breath counted. a chorus of small survivals stitched in the dark. The Volga was both wall and mirror. Officers watched Soviet barges cross under fire, then bent to their letters and wrote about bridges they could not build. "Between you and me," one wrote, "is an ice river, and I talk across it to morning." January 16, Pitnick's fall ruptured the last vein. A captain wrote in one line, "We are sealed." German, Russian, wind, and iron crushed together. He tucked the page into the wall, mortar still wet from snowmelt, a message to the ruins themselves. January 22nd, Gumrak lost. The Sixth Army split into icy islands. Letters became last wills and road signs for whoever would find them. If you read this, tell... Many lines ended there, like footsteps vanishing into a white field. In the Univermag basement, Paulus measured options against orders. He wrote no confession we can quote here. His silence was a kind of letter, blank official paper waiting for a sentence Berlin would not let him write. Hitler's voice crackled, as if the wire itself were freezing. Promotions arrived like ice medals. Officers wrote their families. They made him field marshal so he won't be captured. The sentence hung heavy as a helmet, too cold to lift. Some officers counseled surrender in letters they never sent, because the words themselves might be treason. They addressed the idea to their future selves. If you live, forgive your caution, but not your delay. Paper carried verdicts, the moment dared not. The grain elevator, the factories, the ravines, every corner kept a last line. "Do not look for my grave," one wrote. "Look for my name in your mouth when you say morning." He knew snow would take his body. He wanted the day to keep him instead. On January 30th, Goebbels promised the nation greatness over the radio, while in cellars, officers promised wives a winter coat bought next year. Two kinds of futures were spoken that night. Only one came true, and not soon. The last night before the southern pocket collapsed, letters blurred into prayers. Not pious, but practical. Let the stretcher reach the door. Let the morphine last. Officers folded the pages and set them on chests like armor they could still lift. January 31. Footsteps down into the basement, pistols holstered, coats heavy with frost. The surrender was not thunder. It was a door opening to a colder air. Officers placed their pens down as if completing a last sentence they could endure. In rooms suddenly quiet, the snow kept talking. Stacks of letters waited on crates, their addresses impossible, their stamps decorations from a country far away. A Soviet clerk lifted one and read, not as enemy, but as witness. What did they write last? A name, most often. Then apology. Then instruction. Be kind to each other. The letters did not change history's verdict, but they told the jury of time that the condemned had tried to speak before the gavel fell. After, some letters reached kitchens and courtyards in Germany. Women read them by windows that still held glass. They understood the code. A garden mentioned meant hunger. A child's birthday, fear. A coat, hope. The dead were speaking a language of weather. Others remained in archives, their ink alive under glass. Scholars read them now and hear the politics of survival, the poetry of ration lines, the ethics of command pressed into paper like fingerprints. Time has not warmed them, only made them legible. Heinrich Moldenhauer's page, wedged in brick, waited decades for air. When it was found, it carried no blame, no anthem, just a day's inventory, and one question. If I am not returned, will you still speak of me kindly? A life asking for gentleness. What remains of those letters is not strategy, but scale. The distance between a man and his promise, between a city and a sentence. In the coldest month, they wrote themselves back into humanity. We are their last post. Do we deliver?